Welcome to Eastern State Penitentiary. In a moment, we'll enter the cell blocks, but our tour begins here in this gravel-covered area. I'm actor and director Steve Buscemi. I'll be one of your guides as you visit the prison. You'll also hear from former inmates, guards, and the people who have studied and preserved this historic building. These are their real voices.
I was scared to death. You didn't know what was going to happen.
Well, I used to tell them outright, you try to hurt me, I'm going to try to kill you. Tit for tat, pal.
If you looked at the walls outside, they were like 25 or 30 feet in the air. And inside, they were like 60 or 70 feet in the air.
Eastern State is without a doubt the most influential prison that was ever built.
Before we enter the cell blocks, follow the road past the doorway on the left to the raised concrete surface facing the outside wall. I first came to Eastern State in 1999. I was scouting a film location and was amazed to find this magnificent ruin still standing in the middle of a modern city. You should now be on the raised concrete surface alongside the road. You're standing inside the world's first true penitentiary, a building designed to inspire penitence or true regret in the hearts of criminals. The architects here believe that all human beings, regardless of their behavior, have good in their hearts. They believed Eastern State Penitentiary would inspire a new generation of prisons, worldwide, built on this optimism and faith in the human character. On the inside, Eastern State was progressive, even visionary. But on the outside, this illustration shows Eastern State on its isolated hilltop the year after it opened. Look at the walls. They're 30 feet tall, with an additional 10 feet below ground level. Look at the battlements across the roofline, the towers. On the outside, this building is a castle, a fortress, a dungeon.
Let the avenue to this house be rendered difficult and gloomy by mountains and morasses. Let the doors be of iron, and let the grating occasioned by opening and shutting them extend a sound that shall deeply pierce the soul. Benjamin Rush, 1787.
Standing isolated on a lonely hilltop, some mile and a half outside the early city of Philadelphia, this massive building was designed to dominate the landscape and imply a harsh physical threat to lawbreakers in the city below. But the prison's Gothic revival architecture is mostly for show. The battlements across the top of the administration building are fake. They're only ankle high and wouldn't provide much protection in battle. And you may have noticed tall arrow-slit windows lining the front wall as you approach the prison today, the type of windows seen in castles. Well, they're fake too. You're now looking at that huge wall from the inside, and you can see that those window frames don't penetrate this solid, featureless wall. Step down from the raised concrete surface and follow the roadway around the corner to the left. When you arrive at the entrance to cell block 1, in the courtyard under the corner guard tower, press 2 and the green play button on your acoustic guide.
Cell 1.
This is cell block 1. It opened in 1829. Step inside, take your time, and look around. There is an illustration on your right. Before Eastern State, criminals were sent to places such as the Walnut Street Jail in Philadelphia to await punishment. You can see all sorts of prisoners, men and women, adults and children, petty thieves and murderers, thrown into the jail together and left to scheme or fight among themselves in crowded, unheated rooms. But as bad as these jails were, they were not designed to punish. They were simply holding pens for those waiting to receive their sentences. Flogging, whipping, public humiliation, heavy fines, public execution, these were the typical punishments of the 1700s. A group of prominent Americans were horrified by the conditions in the jails. They met just after the American Revolution in the home of Benjamin Franklin. They had a great 18th century name for their organization, the Philadelphia Society for Alleviating the Miseries of Public Prisons, and they were the first prison reform group in the world. They believed convicts needed time alone, in silence, to rediscover their good nature. The early prison reformers saw solitary confinement, not as a punishment, but as an opportunity for reflection, a chance to become penitent. Our tour continues at the illustration of Eastern State in 1830 on the right-hand side of this corridor. When you're ready to continue your tour, press 3 and the green play button on your acoustic guide.
These fools believe that time alone would make you happy, huh?
Think about it. It's pretty good. Pretty wild. Puppy.
Holy shit. I can barely. Jesus Christ. Barely seen here. One sec, y'all. Just put my flash on. Definitely ain't no vacation. Definitely ain't Turks and Caicos here, for sure. They believe that spending time alone would make you happy here. It reminds me of the conditions you guys have me in. That bed is it's the same bed. Alright, can Jesus. Wonder which is worse, this or Kensington? This must be the master suite. It's bigger than the usual.
Not that the guards wore wool socks over their shoes, so everybody would be stuck in silence. That's torture.
It is, you know what I mean? But like they were trying to give silence to the people, I guess.
Not in a good way.
Not in a good way for sure. It was very budgeted.
They wanted pure crazy town.
Our tour continues inside the round room through the arched
Some
doorway.
people actually believe that this would help them.
This room was called Center. Take a look around. The architect John Haviland envisioned the prison laid out like the hub and spokes of a wheel, with 7 one-story cell blocks radiating from this central point. One overseer could spin from the middle of this room and see down all the corridors. You entered through cell block 1, the first wing completed. Inside cell block 7. Please go up the stairway on the right. It's steep, so use the handrail and go slowly. From the gallery, you'll get a magnificent view of the cell block with its 30-foot barrel-vaulted ceilings. I think it's one of the most striking places in the prison. The system of isolation developed in this building became known as the Pennsylvania system, and it met with great enthusiasm, especially in Europe and the European colonies. A steady stream of government officials traveled to Philadelphia to study this building, and roughly 300 prisons on 5 continents were modeled after Eastern State Penitentiary. With its enormous scale, remarkable systems of running water and central heat, and its revolutionary system of prisoner isolation, Eastern State became a tourist attraction surpassing Independence Hall. But not all visitors were so well impressed. English author Charles Dickens wrote that the 2 sites in the United States he most wanted to see were the Falls at Niagara and the Eastern State Penitentiary.
I hold this slow and daily tampering with the mysteries of the brain to be immeasurably worse than any torture of the body. Charles Dickens, 1842.
Dickens believed that isolation at Eastern State could drive men insane. And increasingly, he wasn't alone. When you're ready to continue, walk down carefully using the other staircase. The tour will continue through the iron gate to your left at the photograph of prisoners in striped uniforms. Press 8 and the green play button when you get there.
Okay, I can see shadows everywhere. That's a rough one.
Oh, excuse me. So block 30.
Who would design this massive structure? The state of Pennsylvania held a competition, and a $100 prize was awarded to John Haviland, a young British-trained architect. He was faced with a huge challenge, holding hundreds of prisoners in strict solitary confinement. Now that may sound simple today, but remember that in 1829, even the White House had no running water, and the president, Andrew Jackson, used a chamber pot. Even the wealthiest Americans heated their homes with wood or coal fireplaces. The model represents a cross-section of this corridor as it stood in 1830. Notice that each prisoner here had his own cell, roughly 8 by 12 feet, with a bed, a workbench, and a cast iron toilet that was flushed with water once a day. Architect David Cornelius has studied these buildings since 1983. He's even explored the utility tunnels that run beneath this corridor.
There were actually a few escapes through the sewer, but prisoners usually found easier ways of escaping. Try escaping through your toilet at home.
Now remember, when they were new, these cell blocks had a striking church-like appearance. The cells had wooden floors and a high arched ceiling, almost like a chapel, with a round skylight called the Deadeye. The back of each cell had a small door. It opened into a walled exercise yard, slightly larger than the cell itself, but open to the sky. Notice on the model that there is no door connecting the central corridor, where you're standing, to the cells. The doors you see now, lining this corridor, were added in the 1850s. Originally, there was just a small opening called a feeding hole through which meals could be passed to the inmates. Originally, the only way into these cells was through the exercise yard door. The cells were heated by a furnace located in a small shed at the end of the cell block. You can see it at the very back of the model. Haviland designed a prison system that would allow each prisoner to be kept completely isolated from his neighbor. Gone were the rowdy crowds of thieves and prostitutes. Gone, too, they hoped, were outbreaks of typhus, or, as it was known, jail fever. Again, architect David Cornelius.
Keep in mind that in the 1830s, germs were basically unknown. People believed that illnesses were spread by bad air, which is not entirely true, but not entirely false either. And Haviland had the challenge that if his architecture didn't work, his users were going to die. It had to work. It was the 1830s equivalent of designing a spaceship wherein all life support had to be provided successfully.
John Haviland had built the first truly modern building in the United States. But would it reform criminals? This section of the corridor has been restored to its appearance in 1830. The most common crimes that might land a person in Eastern State Penitentiary were robbery, burglary, horse theft, forgery, and murder. Typical sentences lasted only about 2 years, and few were longer than 8. At that time, there was no such thing as a life sentence, and those condemned to die were sent elsewhere. Look inside the restored cell and consider the case of John Curran, a 22-year-old white gardener convicted in 1829 of stealing his neighbor's horse. He received a 2-year sentence and was fined 6 cents. He was Eastern State prisoner number 6. Upon his arrival, prison staff placed a hood over his head so he couldn't get a sense of the layout of the penitentiary, and so that no other prisoner would recognize him after his release. He would wear that hood whenever he was outside his cell. In the 2 years he spent here in Cell Block 1, John Curran may never have seen another inmate. Curran spent 23 hours a day inside his cell. He was not allowed to speak to anyone except the chaplain or the guards, who were called overseers. He slept in his cell. He ate 3 meals a day in his cell, and he worked there as well. Prisoners made chairs, some wove fabric, others dyed cloth. An overseer named Alan Fisher taught John Curran to make shoes. You can see shoemaking tools on the workbench in his cell. John Curran was allowed to keep only one book in his cell, a Bible. He could read. Most prisoners could not. He would receive no letter from home, no newspaper, no visitors. Curran received 2 half-hour breaks a day. He was allowed to go through that iron door at the back of his cell, out into his exercise yard to breathe fresh air and feel sun on his skin. Once every 2 weeks, maybe 3, he would be taken from that yard to bathe. We encourage you to step into one of the open cells ahead. They've been modified over the years with concrete floors and modern toilets, but you'll get the idea. The rule at Eastern State was not only isolation, but silence. 20 inches of masonry separate each cell, and the guards walking these corridors wore wool socks over their shoes to muffle their footsteps. The warden's journal records the punishments given for breaking the rule of silence.
January 27th, 1835. I discovered that 6 prisoners had been talking through holes made alongside of their hot water pipes. August 11th, 1840. Female convict 1050, confined to a dark cell on bread and water for disorderly conduct, shouting, and disturbing the other prisoners. June 27th, 1833. Number 102, having on several occasions got the men next to him talking and being detected in the act, last evening I ordered the straitjacket and the gag.
This was hard time.
In the gloomy solitude of a sullen cell, there is not one redeeming principle. There is but one step between the prisoner and insanity. Inmate James Morton.
You should be back in the corridor of cell block 1. Please continue to walk slowly up the corridor and through the iron gate. Stop before you reach the arched doorway. Eastern State Penitentiary was now the largest and most ambitious prison in the world. And at least for a short time, the men who ran Eastern thought they were on the right track. But did inmates repent and become good citizens? What happened to John Curran, the horse thief? Prison documents show that Curran completed his sentence on November 17, 1831.
The warden reports that John Curran has left us on the 25th. I'm glad to be able to bear testimony of his sobriety and good conduct up to the hour of his leaving us, and we have a reasonable hope of his doing well.
But without the aid of photography or fingerprinting, prison staff had no clear way of tracking inmates after their release. And the success of Eastern State Penitentiary remained the subject of debate. Our tour continues inside the round room through the arched doorway. This room was called Center. Take a look around. The architect John Haviland envisioned the prison laid out like the hub and spokes of a wheel, with 7 one-story cell blocks radiating from this central point. One overseer could spin from the middle of this room and see down all the corridors. You entered through cell block 1, the first wing completed. Cell block 2 housed female prisoners until they left in 1923. Cell block 3 later became the hospital block. You can see a red cross inside a small circle in the middle of its iron gate. Al Capone had his tonsils removed there in 1929. John Haviland's original plan would have held, amazingly, only 256 inmates. The state wanted to increase that number, so with cell blocks 4, 5, 6, and 7, the architect was forced to build 2-story cell blocks. The model in this room shows the completed penitentiary in 1836. You can get a good sense here of the scale of the building, 10.5 acres surrounded by half a mile of wall, and how much of the original design was open space. That too would change in time.
Is this door locked? Oh. Thank you. Wow.
wasn't it super Gucci when you had your own cell for yourself? You didn't have a fucking double stack cell there.
Here you are. Come to rescue you.
Yes. Thank you. It got dark.
Let me just look at cell 2 real quick.
Oh, did you see Death Row?
That row where? No. Where is that row?
We're gonna loop back around, so it all makes a circle to this, and then Death Row.
I didn't see that row though.
I think this one does. Either way, we'll see it. So, yeah, because it's like the woman's area, I believe.
Yes, yes it is.
And then I ended up outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I think it was the one over there, but they're all over there. But yeah, what was your favorite part so far?
Man. Killing a cat, serve life. Ooh.
It's still crazy the things people went to jail for back in the day.
Yeah. People these days don't know how good they have it.
That's the dog.
I would much prefer going to jail today than back in this time. Yeah, these are the women's prisons, huh? Let me just look in one. Oh. It's just not healthy.
Were we going back to the house real quick before we had that planned?
Yeah, you're right. You know, this is good. You're right. You were right about the things. We could now explore properly at night. Right. Yeah, we could head back. It's still early. Where's that row, by the way?
Out here.
Come on, let me look at. I was in here, you know what? Let me look at this real quick. So these are the tools. Excuse me.
Sorry.
No problem.
You can go first.
This is that row?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. What number is this on the speaker? 17. Oh shoot.
Gotcha. Yes. Thank you, Master. Yes.
Oh, this must have been broken into cell doors. You never get out.
You never get out. We're stuck here.
Yep.
This was the exercise yard for Death Row? Paradise. So this is a living nightmare.
This gets us back to the middle circle.
No, but there's one in
Excuse us.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
There's
It's in Colorado.
You had to be like very, like very high up. Yeah. Yeah, so like,
Yeah, the exits are right here as well.
Oh, I think they all exit. Oh, and then you exit.
Where's Maya?
She's outside.
Outside in the play area or outside in the front?
I don't know. She said I'm outside. I guess either way she's by the car.
Okay.
He's in the city now.
Oh, Michelle, I don't think I went here.
It was cool. see the rabbi about personal problems and things of that nature. And I would leave it there. And they enjoyed the service, coming down to the service, and gave them a chance to pray, to offer prayers, to perhaps for some of them to bring back some of the memories that they shared at home with their families when they would go to synagogue and other services. And after that, we generally talked about current events, about things that were happening on that. And then maybe we'll have any other problems that we want to share with them. I think that question.
Sorry, what was that?
Did you see the Jewish exhibit down there?
Yes, it's right down there. You'll see the door once you get there. Yeah, it's hard to see her from here, of course. Oh, I thought this was. Man, that's a no asked what figure she. I thought I saw her coming that way. Like, oh, okay, I'll just go straight. That way?
Yeah, you go right and then make a left. I mean, yeah, you go that way and then make a right.
Oh, thanks. Oh, steak. Oh, that's all right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Take care, bro.